What's up? Brandon Lilly here. I'm just going to talk to you about a couple things, and one of them that's been on my mind a lot lately, and I've talked to a few guys about it, is deadlifts or any weight really in perception. In powerlifting, a lot of guys put such a huge emphasis on 800 pounds for deadlift, just like I have. But let's look at something else. Let's look at strongman. A lot of American strongmen and strongmen around the world are pulling 900 pounds or more. Granted, they can use straps. I understand that argument, but it's all about perception. Why aren't there more American powerlifters pulling 900 pounds? Well, number one, I believe that if you've read anything that I write about, it's that we've been told and force-fed that the only thing that matters are singles. Well, why is Derek Poundstone doing 800 for 9 reps, almost 10 reps? Why is a guy like Brian Shaw doing 800 pounds plus, Josh Thigpen doing 800 pounds plus, and all this is for reps? The strongest guys in powerlifting that I know of are doing these big weights for reps. I just saw George Lehman, he was doing 870 for 4. So, it kind of goes against what's been kind of shoved down everybody's throat, that you have to do these singles and, working up in the 90% range for more than one rep will kill you. Well, no, it won't. It's just that we've become so adapted to doing only enough, not ever pushing the envelope. And I think that's what's really hurt a lot of guys. I mean, that was the thing for me. I stayed right in the mid sevens for years, just because I was afraid to push the volume. Once I started pushing my volume on, like on my rep day, or even on my speed day, I got better. But also, I started maxing out without doing singles. I started focusing on max doubles, triples, fives. Those numbers became as important to me as a single PR. And what happened was, magically, my back started getting bigger, my hands started getting stronger, my deadlift went up. So try to change your perception, not only about what's good and what's bad in training, but about the numbers. Like, I can remember talking to somebody, and they said that their biggest squat in their gym was 650, and nobody was going past that number because there was only one guy doing it. Well, guess what? He hits 750 in a meet, and then suddenly everybody else creeps up to 650. And that's one of the things that, at the gyms I've trained at, have been fortunate enough that there are guys who've already broken these pathways. I've trained at several gyms where 1,000-pound squat is a common squat, or an 800-pound pull is more of a common thing. Not necessarily common, but more common. And 800-pound bench presses were the norm, whereas at other gyms, guys might be struggling to bench 500 and 600 or pull 600 and 700. So you actually get better just by seeing other people do those things and being around them, because something in your head starts to say, I can do that. Well, what happens, or what about if you don't train at a gym like that? Like, what if you are the strongest guy at your gym? What you have to do is you have to find a way to set the standard higher for yourself and push to that level. Don't go down to your training partners. Challenge your training partners to come up. Challenge yourself to keep pushing forward. And like I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm 100% accurate as far as the reps working, but when you look at the evidence and the guys that are pulling the biggest weight, it's not necessarily powerlifters. It's guys who are pulling the weights for reps and where the weight demands are more. In many of the top level strongman contests, if you're not, in the axle hold or in the farmer's walk, you might be picking up 400 pounds with each hand and having to walk with it. Well, what about a powerlifter just trying to pick it straight up off the ground? and then you got the car lifts and things like that. I mean, we can learn a lot from strongman. And I think the problem with powerlifting and the way it's been for so long is that we've gotten arrogant to ourselves and thought this is the best way, this is the only way, and we're getting our ass kicked. It would be a scary day, in the world of powerlifting, if a Brian Shaw or a Pujanowski or any of those guys did a powerlifting meet. I mean, they routinely pull high 800s. I know they can squat in the high 800s. Who knows what they can bench, but still, you're talking about a 2,200 pound total just based on that. And that's pretty intimidating, and they do train for reps. They run, they do all these things that we're told not to do. And that's kind of what my article was talking about yesterday. We've allowed ourselves to lower the standard for powerlifting. We've allowed ourselves to believe that less work is better, or there's a defined moment where there is just enough work rather than covering all your bases. And, I read in an article one time, I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but Bill Kazmaier was quoted as saying, to some of these marathon training sessions he had, why did he train so hard? Why did he train so long and do this? He said because he didn't want to leave anything untrained. He didn't want to have any room for weakness. And we don't train with that mentality anymore. We train with the mentality of, what can I do to get the most out of this or this? Like, in your gear, or, if you're a raw trainer, I just want to do enough. That's not enough. Like Mark Bell said in a video the other day, it's an older video, but he reposted it. We've become lazy, and there's no such thing as overtraining. We're just picking a weight up and putting it down. Guys have allowed themselves to buy into this overtraining bullshit. It's just that we're not physically prepared to do what we're doing. If you train hard and you train smart, you should never feel burnout, ever. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. You're just lackadaisical in your training if you feel this overtraining. You don't do enough accessory work. You don't do enough GPP type work to prepare you for what your demands are. We have 3 demands: squat, bench, deadlift. It shouldn't be that hard, but we try to make it rocket science. We try to say, if I don't have this machine or this machine, I can't excel. And, well, so-and-so has this supplement, or so-and-so has this. We just look for excuses as to why we can't be the best that we can be. And, I've written about, I actually wrote a training cycle called 1 Goal, 1 Bar. I put the whole cube method onto a barbell, accessories and everything. So there's no excuse other than you just don't want to work as hard. Billy Mimnaugh posted on my wall saying that, he's going to use these modern conveniences to make his training easier. I understand that. I use a microwave to cook some food. I use a remote control to change the channel. I'm not saying that machines aren't good. I'm just saying that don't become dependent upon those machines. Don't rely on those machines. Understand that a barbell was created first, and all these things spawn from that. So get back to the roots of your training. I trained like a bodybuilder for years and built a great base. So many guys just skip that part. I mean, of my 12 years training, I would say 6 to 7 of those years have been dedicated just to a bodybuilding style training system. And how many of you guys have put in, 5, 6, 7 years before you actually try to do a powerlifting meet or put on the gear or things like that? I mean, I'm talking to 18-year-old kids that have done 10, 12 meets, and that's great. But we're skipping steps along the way. And I think if you start going backwards just a little bit, it's going to take, 1 step backwards to go 5 steps forward. And I think if we all do that, we'll all get a little bit better, we'll all get a little bit stronger, and powerlifting can really grow to what it should be.